One of the shifts that consistency gives you is a visibility advantage. It helps you stand out even if your market is super crowded. You are listening to Amplify Your Success Podcast, episode 343. And today I'm going to show you how to be consistent even if you're a busy business owner so you gain the visibility advantage. You ready for this? Let's get started. Welcome to the Amplify Your Success Podcast. Get ready to ramp up your revenue, amplify your impact, and make your mark in the world. This is the show for experts, thought leaders, and service professionals who want to shatter their limits and achieve that next level. You're going to find out from other experts and influencers how they made it. Now, let's get amplified. Hey there, inspired entrepreneurs and business leaders. Your host, Melanie Benson, Authority Amplifier to expert-based entrepreneurs. And today I want to talk about consistency. I don't care how many times you hear consistency from our guests. And if you go back and listen to episodes over the last 3 to 4 years, there is an interesting phenomenon. Almost 70% of our guests share at some point the importance of being consistent. And yet it is one of the hardest things for some entrepreneurs to do. Now, sometimes it's simply because you're distracted by a lot of things. Sometimes it can be that you're super busy. And if you're not seeing a payoff to something, maybe you're struggling with how to be consistent on it. And I think there are just some designs, especially if you study human design, there are some people that probably have a harder time with consistency, which is one of the reasons why I love using human design in my business coaching, because it really helps us get into why certain patterns are in place. But if you study successful business owners, entrepreneurs, and people who are really growing their reach and their impact and are standing out in their market, there's one really key habit they have, and that is consistency. So let's talk about consistency today. And if this has been something you struggle with, I want you right now to give me a little shout out wherever you're listening to this, or slide into my DMs on Instagram or Facebook and say, yes, Melanie, I've been struggling with my consistency, and let me know how this episode helps you. Now, before I deep dive into consistency, I want to make sure you have a resource in your hands right now, because the rest of this year could be the best part of your year, or it could continue to be underperforming for you. And I have found that when people use my 7-step framework that will add another 6 figures to your business, that it is easier to be consistent because it's going to solve one of the challenges that I mentioned later, which is not knowing what to do. This 7-step framework is the same system, the same strategy I've used since the beginning of my business 2 decades ago. And every time I need to pivot or ramp things up, I use the same system. And what it is 7 key elements that when you pull these 7 pieces together, you're going to be in front of the right audiences with the right message and the right offer that's going to give you a 6-figure boost. And my favorite part of it is the high ticket developing the high ticket offer inside of it. So I'm going to map it out for you. It's a very simple, super easy to use framework. It's going to basically point you in the right direction and give you some questions to reflect on to make sure that you have all 7 pieces in place. If you go to amplifywithmelanie.com, you can download it as my gift to you today. And I've even jam-packed a little bit of extra training to help you really learn how to unpack this and use it in your business. So again, amplifywithmelanie.com. And you'll be glad you have it after today's episode, because you're going to want to know what to be consistent with, and this is going to help. So let's first talk about why being consistent is such a game changer for your business. I work with a lot of really talented people who, when they start to work with me, oftentimes one of the big things they tell me is like, Melanie, I feel invisible in our market. I know what I do is good. I know I solve problems. My clients love me, but I'm having a hard time either attracting those clients or keeping my cash flow consistent, right? So there seems to be some common challenges where it leaves them feeling invisible. And what I've always said is if your ideal clients can't see you, they can't hire you. It's the same thing with if you want to get booked more with your topic, or if you want to be on stages or whatever your marketing strategy is, if they can't see you, they will not choose you. So you need to be seen, and being consistent with what we're going to talk about today gives you that visibility advantage. And so what we're going to kind of lay out for you as a little formula is what creates a positive habit that gives you a visibility advantage even if you're in a crowded market. Now, the other thing, so first of all, like it's helping you build awareness. So a consistent brand, a consistent set of images, a consistent messaging, consistent offers, like the people who are consistent in their front of their audience, whatever that is, whether it's social media or email or a podcast, which we'll talk about in a minute, this helps build industry awareness and authority in your audience. And it has a repetitive reinforcement so that it's that old saying that the first time somebody sees it, they probably go, oh, it's interesting. The second time, they're like, oh, okay, I keep seeing this person. The third time, the fourth time, the fifth time, the 7th, 10th, 15th, 20th time, they're like, oh my God, I see this person everywhere. It's like that buzz factor. And then they start to pay attention because you're always in front of them. And when they are ready to solve the problem you are uniquely qualified to solve, they'll choose you as one of the people they talk to because you're always in front of them. So there is not just the visibility advantage from getting you booked on shows and getting people familiar with your brand, but it actually builds momentum and a repetition of awareness that you are an industry authority that they should talk to. Now, there's one other little side effect here, and that is I truly have found that when you are consistent, it's almost like there's a subliminal message to the people who are considering you for something, whether it's speaking or a guest expert spotlight or as a potential mentor or whatever it is you do for them. They start to experience more know, like, and trust factor with you. First of all, they're seeing that you show up regularly and consistently, and that exudes a sense of confidence that, hey, I know what I'm doing, I'm here. But it also kind of erodes that, I think, what is oftentimes an unconscious resistance to buying from somebody. It's like, you don't know, are they the real thing or not? I literally have people tell me, especially people who invest in a high ticket program with me in some way, shape, or form. They say, I watched you for months. I listened to you for weeks. And I realize you are the real deal. You know what you're talking about. And so I'm finally like raising my hand saying I would like more. And actually, I think that's a good thing because these types of potential clients are better prospects. They're more ready to buy. So that know, like, and trust factor is being developed when you are consistent. I say that, and you're probably thinking, well, of course, Melanie, like, I want to be consistent. So why are more people not consistent? Well, they're busy. Let's just face it. People are busy. They have a lot going on. And if they don't see a payoff to being consistent with something, it's hard to fit something new into a busy business. I get it. Hopefully, I've painted a picture of why being consistent with your messaging, your branding, and your offers is a good payoff. There is a track record of people getting more business when they are consistently present in front of their audience. But let's dig a little deeper, because you can know this is a good thing and you still don't know what to do. So the next thing might be, I don't know what to do. I don't have clarity. If you have my 7-step framework, this is going to help paint the picture. Yes, you might need to dial in some unique things to you and your business, and that's where the coaching comes in. Please don't try to fit it together with free stuff. It's just never going to really be the most custom approach for you. And that's why a lot of campaigns and things fall flat is you don't have something that is uniquely designed to you, your human design, your unique business model, your unique audience. You know, there are things that work better when they've been fine-tuned to your uniqueness. Now, let's say you do know what to do. You've got clarity. You're going to make time for the things that are a priority and important and will pay off. So why else might you not have consistency on things that give you that visibility advantage? Habit. When you have built habits to do things a certain way, and you recognize you now need something new to be consistent with, it can be a little bit of a challenge to create a new habit. And that's why there's a gazillion habit building programs out there on the market. What I have found is that our brain conditioning, the way our brains are wired, we hold on to patterns that keep us in a groove. We build this momentum, and when we're in the momentum, it can be hard to shift the momentum. And this is because our brain is filled with neural pathways, right? Like there is here's how I do things that we lock in almost as if it's a ride at a theme park. And when we get on the beginning of the ride just follows the path. And in order to create a new habit and to potentially create a new pattern that leads to more consistency with something that will pay off for you, you need to develop a new neural pathway. So that means you have to get intentional and you have to recalibrate the neural pathway to create an outcome that is more aligned with what you want. I could go deep diving into our neurology and how our brains work and the how our conditioning of patterns is either setting us up for success or keeping us trapped inside of a framework that limits us. But that's not today's episode. That'll be a whole nother episode. So here's some ways to break out of a pattern or a habit that's keeping you locked into not supportive behaviors. First of all, you have to decide that the why is more important than the comfort of what you're doing right now. And that means there is a payoff to what you're doing. I'm going to have more visibility. That visibility is going to attract more clients. It's going to get me more bookings, right? Whatever that is. And what you want to consider is, how can I create a system that will help me lock into this new behavior? So when I'm working with clients, we'll look at things like, how can you create a time block for that potential behavior? You know, whether that's filming a video or creating their podcast episode. If it is not part of a routine, it's probably not going to happen. I happen to be a huge fan of project management tools and creating routines. So I'm just going to unpack how I create this podcast for a minute, because so many people ask me, how do you stay consistent and not burn out? Well, I do 3 things. 1, I use a project management software, so I always know what 4 to 6 episodes out look like. We know which guest is airing. We know what workflow has to happen. It's all pre-programmed, and there is a routine in my calendar and my team's calendars of when certain things happen so that all of the working pieces come together. So 1, we have a project management software that pre-programs everything that needs to be done. 2, everybody has time in their calendar. There is a routine for when their elements or my elements get produced. And 3, I batch content. I have certain recording days where my solo episodes get done. I have recording days when our guest interviews get done. And I'm usually batching somewhere between 2 and 4 episodes at a time. Why does this work? 1, it is a habit. It is a conditioned pattern that gets a predictable result. Let me repeat that. It is a conditioned pattern. It is a conditioned pattern that produces a predictable result. And that is how we produce something every week that works very well for me to create a visibility advantage and to help people know who I am, what I do, and build a community of amplifiers who are excited to grow together and will choose me when they're ready for a coach if they're looking for the kind of coach that I am. Routines develop behaviors and habits that produce reliable results. So I'll give you an example of something that was very hard for me to shift. And that was, for a long time, I knew I needed to create short video, reels, YouTube shorts, TikToks, all of that. And I just didn't have it in me. Like, my schedule didn't have the right allowance for producing this content. but I knew I wanted the result. So if we work through the process, I knew I wanted the results of being able to bond with and connect with people through video. And I knew that short videos perform well on social media. I can give you examples of video and reels that like thousands of views and more comments than anything else that I put out there. But I didn't have the time. And so what I did is I created a new routine. And twice a week, I have a space in my calendar to take something that I've been thinking about and create a short video. It usually takes me 15 to 20 minutes max. Or when inspiration hits, I record it. But I cannot always rely on inspiration. So that's why the routine's there to back me up. And so that was being intentional. I know I need to get 2 short videos out a week. And if I don't do that, then I know I'm not going to produce some of the results I want. So intentional focus, clear outcome, and creating space to do it if the inspiration hadn't already struck. So that is how to overcome some of the consistency patterns that may be plaguing you as well. Now, what should you be consistent with? And I want to hear from you. What do you need to be consistent with? Drop me a line wherever you're listening to this. Like I said, you can put it in the comments. You can share it in the chat. You can give me a little message on DM, whatever works for you. But I want to know, what do you need to be consistent with? Here are some of the things that I've worked with clients on. Building a consistent presence online. So that might be video, that might be doing social media posts. Now, here's the key. You don't have to be visible everywhere. I want you to be visible where your ideal clients are. Build community, build connection with the people who are hanging about. And I guarantee you, when people see your message enough times and they feel that sense of consistency, they're more likely to choose you. And I've seen this happen on all of the social platforms I'm active on, which we're pretty much active on all of them. In my Facebook group, when I'm more consistent there, more people are engaged and more people are wanting solutions from me. I've seen this happen. I've always been consistent with my podcast, but I've seen this as the video has been more consistent. So be consistent where your ideal clients are looking for you. And if you don't know where that is, then you definitely want to deep dive into that and go into the resource that I shared with you for some ideas. Again, amplifywithmelanie.com. If you want to download that, and pick 3 to 5 places to be consistent right now. Here's another thing that I work with all of my clients on is getting your topic pitched to potential podcast hosts, shows, event producers. The more you do that, the more opportunities are going to come your way, because other people are going to be seeing you and your message, and they're putting an event together or they're doing a collaboration of some kind. They're going to be like, oh, I love that thing that Janet put out there about XYZ, or I loved what Fred put out there about, the work he does, and that's perfect for this thing that I'm putting together. Get visible by being consistent, pitching your topic to potential shows. One of my clients, we've been working together for 6 or 7 years now, and whenever things kind of hit a little dip, we go back to the basic of, hey, how visible have you been? And she's told me every time I pitch myself and I get on a podcast or I get on a show, I get clients, but I also get 3 to 4 more invitations to get on other stages. So one pitch, one visibility usually will land her 3 to 4 to 5 more. So it's a great exponential visibility strategy. Be intentional and consistent with building relationships with other people in your field who you could collaborate with. This is one of the most untapped opportunities for consistency. And it doesn't take a lot. You don't have to turn this into a massive project, but just reach out to 1 person a week or 3 people a week and start to build relationships with people that you serve a similar audience so you can start collaborating together. Another one, your email marketing. I know email marketing can be tricky. There's a lot of stuff, and it means you have to write something. But I can tell you, if you are not consistent building that relationship with your email subscribers, people who literally said, hey, I want to keep hearing from you, and they're on your email list, you are not nurturing the gold in your audience. Like, this is your best chance of shifting somebody who is lurking about to being a buyer, is being consistent with emails to them. Now, this is not ideal, but I have situations where somebody who is on my list for 12 years, one thing I put out was just right in her face at the right time. And after 12 years, she raised her hand and said, I'm ready to hire you, and worked with me for 2 years in my Ignite Mastermind. So, you never know when that person's finally ready. And if you're not consistent and you're not nurturing them, then you have a dormant asset. And the last thing I'll put out today is consider how consistent are you being with your authority building platform. So an authority building platform, and again, I bring this up and I'll unpack that for you in the 7-step framework, but it is something that you put out consistently that helps educate your audience who you are, the problems you solve, and builds a relationship with them. One of the most favorite things for me about having a podcast is the bingeability factor. A lot of my clients say, I binged your podcast for a weekend and then booked a consultation with you because I knew I was ready. Well, you don't have to have a podcast. It could be a video show. It could be some other, like on Twitter. If you're active on Twitter, there's a lot of Twitter chats. It could be a video series you do on your social channels. It could be your email marketing. It could be an event you host 3 times a year. Whatever it is, I highly suggest you're consistent with it. And I think anything you can drip at least once a week is a fantastic way to stand out in a crowded market. And it does give you that visibility advantage. I co-host a show. So we have Amplify Your Success, but I also co-host Next Level Influence with a really good friend of mine, Samantha Riley out of Australia. And this is one of the things we've talked about several times is she publishes her show 3 times a week. I do my shows once a week. Either one is consistently building a relationship with your community and, again, developing that know, like, and trust factor. But most importantly, it helps you stand out. So these are some of the things that are on my mind right now about consistency. And again, I want to hear from you. Like, where do you know you need to be consistent? And has there been something that you added consistency to that moved the needle for you in a positive way? Share it. Tell me about it. I want to hear. One superpower you can have that will give you an advantage over everyone else is be consistent with the visibility strategies, the behaviors, and the actions that your competitors won't be consistent with. This is not easy to get up every day and build the businesses we build. Some days are awesome and some days it takes everything you've got to pick it up and start another day. I get it. I've been doing this a really long time. But the one advantage you have is be willing to be consistent with what will set you apart from everyone else. And that is what makes you the most logical choice when somebody's choosing who to work with. Thanks for tuning in today, Amplifier. Be sure to join us right now in the Amplify Your Authority community at authorityamplifiers.com, and I'll share my 7 proven tips to be a highly paid expert that stands out in a crowded market. Plus, we're going to keep this conversation going, and I want to hear from you how you're going to amplify your authority and make a greater impact. Before you go, please take a minute to give our show and our guests some love over on your favorite podcasting platform. Subscribe, rate, and review. Leave your full name, and I'll spotlight you and your authority on social media.